Is there a price point that's too high for Facebook groups? Like, what do you typically see? You know, $20 to $500 a month, or?
So you're thinking of more of a subscription, and I have groups that are paid groups. I do not add people into them until after they purchase. So they're not coming to the Facebook group and then purchasing.
Right.
They purchase before I ever throw them in there. And the reason why I throw people into those paid groups.
Welcome to the Replace University podcast. As always, I'm your host, Michael Lush, alongside Cierra Lueck, and she's got some amazing content she's going to share with us today. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Tell us what you do.
Okay. That's a
yeah, I know.
question.
I struggle with that too, yeah.
So if you've ever been in a Facebook group that's either spammy or dead, or only the admins are actually getting any kind of real engagement, I'm the person they bring in when they want people to love the group so much they never want to leave. Yeah. People actually enjoy being sold to. Yeah. And then they love inviting in people just like them. So essentially we turn brands into movements.
I like the number two, people enjoy being sold to. So you're monetizing Facebook groups.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, is it subscription based, or is it like a fee up front?
So subscription is one of the ways to monetize. There's lots and lots of different ways to monetize. Usually it's whatever a person's offer is already. We take that and then amplify it. And typically we add in a few other ways to monetize, because just like you would diversify your financial portfolio, you want to do that with your business as well. You want to have multiple ways that you're bringing in income.
That makes sense. We probably should back up, because I have a litany of questions when it comes to Facebook groups. Where are you originally from?
Originally from Texas.
Yeah, what part?
Grew up near Texas A&M University, Giggle Aggies. I was there for most of my entire life until I got married. We're about to celebrate our 19th anniversary. So we've been married for about 19 years. And
nice, congrats.
we lived in Dallas, we lived in Houston. We have family out in the Austin, San Antonio area. So Texas is kind of like home, but now that we're in Tennessee, we've really kind of embraced Tennessee life.
What caused you to move to Tennessee?
I was coming out here for masterminds.
Yeah.
So when I launched my consulting business, I was coming out here every single week I was weekly involved with people that were out here and almost daily talking with people that were out here. But then I was traveling out here specifically for masterminds every single month. And I looked at my husband, he was about to transition out of the Army. And I was like, babe, if maybe you want to think about where we're going to move next. And every single time I travel out there, it's like $2,500 to $3,500 for the entire trip. So, it's kind of like a rent payment. You want to move there? And he said yes. And so now we're here and we love it.
Are you ever going to leave?
I mean, maybe.
Never say never.
Maybe. Probably what we'll do is we'll purchase property out here, and then we'll purchase properties in other hotspot locations where entrepreneurs are at, or where events are being held, and then kind of Airbnb them and just bounce between the different ones.
Nice. So invest in real estate.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Have you checked out Replace Your Employer yet?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not.
That's a plug. Replace Your Employer. We specialize in real estate investing of all kinds, wholesaling, flips, buy and holds, you name it. And I'm not the expert of that. I will only talk about Replace Your Mortgage intelligently. Now, I think another thing I learned about you, maybe just following you on Facebook, because my wife, we have our babies at home. You also did the same thing, but I think you mentioned you're a beast. You did it unassisted, because we had doulas and midwives. Not taking anything away from my wife.
So I have 5 kids. My oldest is now 16. My youngest is 5 years old. We're not planning on having any more. But the very first one, we had a midwife at home. And then the last 4 we did unassisted. And that we kind of fell into it with the first one, because my midwife dropped me about 2 weeks before I was due. Because at the time, for anyone who doesn't know my backstory, we actually went through a time of poverty in our relationship. Again, married 19 years, that's a long time. Right. And so during that time of poverty, we ended up
Would you get
not
married
being
at 10?
able. What's that?
Did you get married at 10?
I'm 37.
Okay.
So, close enough. It was 18 years old is when I got married.
I'm 22, but I was in the mortgage industry, so that's why I look 45. Yeah.
Amazing. So
unassisted, I mean. It's funny, because I'm actually wearing this hat, Unleash the Leader Within. It's part of Replace Your Mindset, and we talk big about mindset. I mean, that takes some incredible mental strength to, it's one thing to do it at home, but it's another thing to do it unassisted. Not just for you, but also your husband.
With what you do, with Replace Your University, Replace Your Mortgage, Replace Your Employer, you're helping people to shift their mindset around things. And I believe in the medical industry that there's been this whole like drastic shift in mindset in a direction that has taken us to a place where we're more unhealthy.
Yep.
And I believe everybody kind of sees the fruits of that now, to where people are struggling with weight, they're struggling with stress and anxiety, or at least they're being told that that's what their struggle is. They're struggling with so many other things. And so for me, going for an unassisted birth, it was more like, this is what people have been doing for thousands of years.
True.
And our society survived, our people survived, and it wasn't really a big deal until the last like couple hundred years when they started like forcing us into the medical model. And I say forcing because it's like we're required to report things. We're also required to get medical insurance and things like that.
Vaccines.
So I did unassisted home birth before unassisted home birth was cool. Now there's like Facebook groups with like thousands or like multiple 5 figures worth of women inside of it that are all doing unassisted home birth. But I did it before any of that was available, and I tried to research as much as I could, and there was almost nothing out there. We actually ended up, because my mom worked at Texas A&M, we ended up going to the Texas A&M library and renting a whole bunch of books. Whatever. We got a bunch of books from Texas A&M, and we ended up just like researching everything we could in that 2-week time frame before my son was born, because we were trying to figure out, okay, if something happens, what do we do? If this happens, what do we do? Because like midwifery wasn't as big back then, and there's so many laws around like being able to have a midwife. And now it's a lot more open, and there's a lot more opportunity for people to be able to do unassisted if they want, or do assisted, but on their terms. And I think being able to do life on your own terms is probably one of the biggest drivers for most of us.
Independence, absolutely. Any scares with any of those 5?
Well, with my first one, that I had a midwife there, she had what's called shoulder dystocia.
And it's we just had that.
Where the shoulder gets stuck, and the midwife had me rotate and turn over. So that actually ended up happening with our third one, which was an unassisted one. And so my husband, like, guys, this is kind of detailed, but my husband ended up getting in the pool with me. He reached up in there, dislodged her shoulder, and on the next push, she was out. Dude. And that labor, my third labor, was only an hour and a half long.
What a stud.
So it was fast.
Yeah. Man, we had it, and I was absolutely terrified. And, you know, my wife, I'm holding her leg and trying to get her in a position, because she was in the pool and eventually went to the bed and had shoulder dystocia. And all we could see was the head and not yet breathing. And then the midwife started panicking. Then I start panicking, but she's like, "What's wrong?" I said, nothing, just keep pushing. But internally, I'm freaking out. Ended up being okay, blessing from God. But yeah, that's one, from what I gather from my wife, that is a very painful process. Not just birth in general is a painful process, but shoulder dystocia on top of that is, I can't imagine.
I don't know. I felt like birth in general is pretty painful, but not for everybody. There are some women out there who don't have any pain in birth, and if you exist, I would love to just have a conversation.
Yes, my wife has shown me some Instagram
some women are like, some women get like sexual pleasure from it too, and I'm like, that's a little much, but when I was in labor, I remember, like, with shoulder dystocia, the only reason that people get scared or get that adrenaline rush from it is just because they are not familiar with it and they don't know. And I'm sure that that's relatable for anybody. I'm sure you've been in a position before where you didn't know what would happen afterwards or the outcome, and so you get a little bit scared, you get a little bit worried. That happens in all areas of life. And so same thing, shoulder dystocia. The more you know, if you're informed about it, the easier it is to make that decision and not feel scared.
Right. Yeah, actually one of the midwives, I don't think she's yet done a one by herself, so we had 2 midwives there. And she contemplated quitting. She actually posted on Instagram after the fact because she panicked and felt like, okay, well, I'm not built for this. And, end up having a conversation like, there's a first for everything. Now you are. Now you know what to do because it actually happened. And experience is one of our better teachers. All right, so back to Facebook groups instead of birthing.
Well, hold on. Before we jump away from that, let me give one more little story that'll help everybody out. When I got a midwife, my very first midwife, she had already done and performed over 3,000 births.
Wow.
So she was very skilled and knowledgeable in what she did. She was also the person we had on call with my second one after a different midwife dropped us. We called up my midwife who was 5 hours south of us in Houston. We were up in Dallas. And we called her up, and she was the one we had on the line, and she walked us through everything. We actually ended up having to, my labor was 23 hours, and we ended up having to burst the water bags to carry on and progress labor because I induced with castor oil. If anyone out there is thinking of it, don't do it. Pitocin. It's not great. Inducing brings on an unnatural labor that is not fun. There's no breaks in between contractions, which you normally have. Anyways, don't interrupt the normal process. Just let it carry out unless it's an emergency, and in which case, that's what hospitals are for. With that midwife, though, we had an expert. We had somebody who knew what they were doing. It wasn't just somebody who'd done it once before and it was a fluke and they didn't know how to duplicate it or how to replicate it in somebody else. She was very knowledgeable. And so I feel like in anything, no matter what you're pursuing in life, having that expert who can, that's the kind of feedback that you need, is the expert. Yeah,
100%. Did you build a Facebook group around unassisted home birthing?
Facebook groups did not exist when I had my first unassisted birth. So at the time, I built a Cafe Mom group. There was this website called Cafe Mom. That's the first place I got into online groups, and I was admin over several groups. So I built one around unassisted home birth, but there just weren't that many people looking into it back then. So it was maybe like 68 people, 68 women. I had a few other groups that kind of exploded on Cafe Mom. We ended up getting sponsorships on there. That was the first online groups that I ever monetized, was the Cafe Mom websites. We tried to transition over to Facebook groups in the beginning. That was about 15 years ago when Facebook groups first came out. They were really terrible in the beginning. They're the best source now for building an online community, but back then it wasn't so great.
Do you find, especially in that crowd, that there's a lot of people, because with a lot of the stuff that we teach, we find that there's a large group of people that just don't do Facebook at all. And I would imagine that group is kind of similar to that, where it's like, look, you don't want to involve the hospitals. You also probably tend to be the type of person that's like, I don't want to involve social media either. So do you find that group also kind of gravitates towards that?
Re-ask the question.
That group is home birthing, homesteading, preppers, and I know it's not all the same. I'm just saying that's a general mentality. Do you find that, because we have found with our education, because ours is totally different than what you would find in traditional education. It's what we call real-world tactical financial education. And when we get into those groups, we find that a big portion of our audience doesn't even want to entertain social media, let alone Facebook, because they tend to be right-leaning and they're just like, I don't want to deal with Big Blue. I would assume that group is very similar. No?
I find a lot of the people who go the unassisted route in the past tended to be more people that I wouldn't have chosen to hang out with because they weren't actually right-leaning.
Oh, really?
And they weren't conservative. They were very free spirits and crystals and that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
It doesn't really matter what you believe politically or religiously. It doesn't matter what your leaning is. I think that the world is starting to wake up, that there's something better that we're missing out on that has been suppressed from us. And I'm actually reading, is it okay for me to mention a book?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm reading a book right now called Combating Cult Mind Control. And it's talking about the persuasion techniques that are used by all of these cults. And there's a lot of cults that are just right here in front of our faces, including the multi-level marketing or network marketing world.
Or BlackRock. I just threatened a $10 trillion company. Yeah.
So the idea that those exist, what I found as I started reading that book and I was evaluating and doing an analysis of my life personally, is that I've seen cult practices, cult mind control techniques used in public school. When I was going to school, and that was a long time ago. I've seen it with my parents, and they didn't, I know my parents weren't aware that they were using these techniques. And I've seen it in the churches. I've seen it on political parties, both sides. I've seen it with network marketing, because I used to do that back in the day. I've seen it in sales worlds. I've seen it inside of businesses. And what I found is that we're picking up on these cult mind control practices through osmosis. And we're now starting to all use them on a regular basis. And there was a really interesting one brought up. I'm reading another book called Persuasion. You familiar with that one?
No.
It's really good. You'd probably love it.
Yeah.
In Persuasion, he was talking about how you can actually control the bias of somebody in their decision-making process in the moment by what you're exposing them to, and they are none the wiser and they have no clue that it's happening, and they would never admit that that is what swayed them. They would look at it and be like, that didn't sway me at all.
Yeah.
And it's all subliminal and subconscious.
Wow.
They actually did a study, and what they found, they had this one furniture company that kept trying to beat their competitors based on price, and they knew that they were never gonna win, because they actually had higher quality and they could never lower the price point because it was such high quality materials.
Yeah.
So they put up these 2 websites, and on one of them they had clouds. And so clouds evoke an emotion of comfort. And then on the other one they had pennies, and pennies evoke that, you know, I need to save my money. And it's
scarcity.
like, scarcity, all of that. So they had those 2 different ones. So the ones with clouds, they did a survey of the people as they were coming in, like, what is it that you're looking for today? And they said, well, it's really important to me that it's comfortable, that we can relax in it, all of that. And for the people with the pennies, they were like, well, price point is the biggest thing.
Oh, wow.
And they asked them afterwards, did the website influence your decision? And they said, absolutely not.
Oh, my goodness.
They had no clue that they were being persuaded in one direction or another. So in surveys, it's actually recommended. My husband has a degree in leadership from Texas A&M. And they were having him create some surveys.
Plug his podcast. I was on his podcast. You can plug that one specifically, but plug his podcast real quick. It's a really cool one.
Yeah, the Benjamin R. Lueck Leadership Podcast. If you look that up, it's on every platform where you can find podcasts available and podcast streaming. He's interviewed a bunch of amazing experts. He also has a book that is phenomenal. So look up Benjamin R. Lueck. Benjamin. I don't know why some people spell it Benjamin. That's not how it's spelled. And then last name is Lueck. You can find him. He's all over everywhere.
Yeah.
When he was in Texas A&M for his leadership degree, they had him put out a survey, and they were teaching him about not persuading and building bias in the survey. And so what's actually recommended in surveys is to do how satisfied versus dissatisfied. So that way you have both at the same time, so you're not preceding the idea. Because if you only said, how dissatisfied are you? The moment I ask, like, how dissatisfied are you with the restaurants in Franklin? Instantly, you start thinking about restaurants you haven't liked.
Right.
So instantly you're building in the negative bias.
I was about to say Tupelo honey. Because I always have to wait forever for,
I think we just ate it at like some Cajun restaurant.
Cajun steamer?
No, well, I like that one.
Yeah, the black and mahi, yes.
That one's one of my favorites, but we ate at 55 South in downtown Franklin, and I was like, this doesn't even compare. I'd rather have gone to Cajun steamer.
Oh.
Atmosphere is maybe not as high quality in Cajun
Bourbon's
steamer.
Not as good.
But 55 South, like, their food was just not nearly as good. Anyways, that being said, I asked you on the dissatisfied, you instantly started thinking of the negative things.
Yeah.
If I asked you, well, how satisfied are you with the masterminds and the programs that you've been able to connect with? What comes to mind?
Yeah, positive connotation. So, you know, things that I would think about, well, this was really cool and this was really cool. I start subliminally, I just go down that path.
Exactly. And it starts building the neural pathways that connect us to certain emotions, that connect us to certain ideas. And so the best salespeople out there, some of the best salespeople I know are Taylor Welch, Eli Wild, Alex Hormozy. They're constantly persuading you, and you probably don't even realize it.
Do you do sales training, by the way?
I do with my clients. I walk them through some sales training. We do a lot of pre-framing.
I have salespeople that need sales training.
Oh, well. My biggest thing is, if you do the pre-framing right in your marketing, then it's not a sales call, it's a closing call.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing. Like, who wants to be jumping on the call with people who are not even sure if they want to buy yet?
Yeah.
I want to jump on calls with people. And so I've always notoriously had a 75 to 90% close rate, period, across the board, no matter what price.
Wow.
And with referrals, it's 100%.
Yeah.
Obviously. I mean, most everybody, it should be 100%. If you don't have a 100% referral rate, you need help.
Right.
That being said, like, for example, one of my clients, so getting back to Facebook groups, which is what sent me down this like bunny trail of the psychology behind it. I've actually been studying psychology stuff since I was a teenager. I found this book on my mom's shelf. I stole it. Love you, Mom. She knows I have it, so we're all good. It was called Let Me See Your Body Talk, and it was all about how we move and how we use our body. Like you and I have been doing a few subliminal psychology things while we've been having our conversation here. So you'll see this in politicians, and you've seen that I've been doing it. If you go back and rewatch this on the replay or whatever, you'll see that I've been actually doing this. I open up my hands and I put them like this. This is what politicians do.
Yeah.
You'll notice it. The reason is because who puts out their hands to you like this?
A midwife welcoming a baby, or a mother about to hold a baby. I can think of a lot.
When do you go like this?
Yeah, to hug.
To hug.
Yeah.
To hug. And who do you hug?
People that I know, like, and trust.
Mm-hmm. So every time you do this, it's a trust position.
Yeah.
And so you can actually program your own mind to be more open to something. If you've been closed off to something for a while, and this is a very closed off position, we all do it, right? We all have that, like, I feel uncomfortable and I feel closed off. And it might, so just don't read too much into it, because if somebody's crossing their arms, it doesn't mean they're mad at you. No. It could mean that they're like, suddenly their tummy hurts. Yeah. You know, something super small like that. Or suddenly something triggered and they remembered something and they feel upset about that, and they probably don't want to talk about it.
I do it to hide my stomach when I'm sitting down. Yeah.
I used to do that.
Yeah.
So that being said, you can trick your own brain into adopting new ideas and new perspectives. If you've been having blocks with something and you're listening to a new training, you can sit in a more open position, and sitting in that open position will actually trigger your brain to be more open to the information you're receiving. It's the same thing, like if you want to be happier, just smile, even if it's not a real smile and you're faking it. It triggers those happy hormones to be released in your brain and you feel better.
That's really cool. You like that, Evan? Yeah, see, he's always smiling too, by the way. He's doing it on me. But you got your arms closed.
Well, it's like a thoughtful close.
Yeah. It's a caring, trusting close.
It is.
All right, so when monetizing Facebook groups, is there a price point that's too high for Facebook groups? Like, what do you typically see? You know, $20 to $500 a month, or?
So you're thinking of more of a subscription, and I have groups that are paid groups. I do not add people into them until after they purchase. So they're not coming to the Facebook group and then purchasing.
Right.
They purchase before I ever throw them in there. And the reason why I throw people into those paid groups, and I'm actually finding that now that I have multiple tiers, that it's confusing for a few of my clients. So I'm finding I'm going to have to do training on that. And so right now I'm exploring if the training's even worth it. Should I keep them in those other groups? And I'm testing that out. And I've seen this with other communities as well. So on the onboarding, people need to have that information, and they need to have that information like drilled into them, because they're not going to remember anything you give them on onboarding.
Yeah.
So that being said, what I find is the best way to start in any monetization is always to do something high ticket first, because that gives you the cash flow initially. Unless you have like buku's amounts of money just sitting out there that you can just spend on whatever, which there's very few people who actually have that on the front end. So we do high ticket offers first, because that gives you the cash flow to where then you have the freedom to make decisions without having to worry about how you're going to pay the bills. And it also gives you access to purchase whatever tools you might want to use.
Right.
And there's a lot of really cool SaaS tools and AI tools out there that are really great for groups.
What's a good AI tool?
Okay, so
we've been using ChatGPT a lot.
I use ChatGPT some.
Yeah.
I try to only use, so I've had Jasper AI since Jasper came out and it was Jarvis in the beginning, and then Disney was like, we're going to sue you. And they were like, cool, we'll change our name.
Yeah.
I've been using Jasper since the beginning. I love Jasper because it doesn't require as much thought. ChatGPT, have you ever gone onto ChatGPT and then lost your day?
Lost my day? You mean like just go down rabbit holes because of what it's given me, and like, well, I actually meant this, and Yeah, it's so easy when you have something fun to play with to just lose all of your time. And then now you have to think about like time and efficiency. Like, is ChatGPT really the hobby that you want right now? No.
Is that the one you want? No. So most people who are jumping into ChatGPT, they think it's going to be easier. It's actually harder, because they don't have a process already built out. If you have a process, which is what all the marketers do, all the marketers already have a process for creating their content. So going to ChatGPT is amazing for them because they already have a process.
Right.
If you don't already have a process, you're going to spend hours trying to create one.
Yeah.
Or trying to get ChatGPT to create one. Or you're just going to go down a bunny trail and have ChatGPT tell you like dad jokes.
Yeah, and I've also found that it's left-leaning too. So it has a tendency to be biased, depending on what I'm asking it.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, alarming.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you got the high ticket on the front end for the cash flow. Do you also combine a high ticket with a subscription Facebook group?
So the high ticket would be how they get access to the group.
Right.
And so I have a lot of people who are in that, and then I sell them so now we're getting into offer structures.
Yeah.
So if you want to know the different ways that we monetize a group, I can give you the list of different ways.
Sure.
First off, let's start. There's 5 Facebook group types for business that are actually profitable in terms of like 5 to 7 figures a month profitable. So one is a subscription group, but it's going to be high ticket subscription, not low ticket. Another one is going to be the pop-up groups. So people do a pop-up group where it's just there for an event. So you've probably seen Brendan Burchard does these, Tony Robbins does these, Dean Graziosi does these, Russell Brunson does these sometimes. They're those kind of like 5-day challenges, different things like that. Those are pop-up groups, and they are amazingly engaged during the time of the event, and then die so fast after. So
we have some of those.
The whole point of that typically is just to get new people in, build up a lot of hype, and get people onto an email list. That's it. That's all it's good for. So, but those are wildly profitable in the moment that you're using them. Then there's the Facebook ads group where you just kind of use it like a webinar platform. And so I see a lot of people do that. I feel like with those group types that I just listed, that the issue that we have there is that we're not actually building a community. Other than the subscription group for clients. That one builds a community. But that one they've already paid in. So that one's not really a marketing channel. That is after. That's further down the pipeline. That's further down your funnel. So they're already clients. So they're building up that camaraderie. That's great. We want to build a community on the front end around our brands. And the reason why we want to do that and utilize a Facebook group, like you'll see people are also using like Discord and Circle and I'm trying to think, Telegram is another one that I've seen used.
Clubhouse is gone, right? Or is it still out there?
So I never joined it.
Yeah, I heard about it, and it was real trendy, but if it wasn't for this business, I wouldn't even be on social media. It
was trendy, but it was more openly apparent to me that it was like what I said about ChatGPT, where it's a time waster and a time suck, and you get in there, and like the networking requires so much effort. So can I give you something that's my favorite way to network on Facebook? I use what's called viral questions. I actually have a training that you can get for free. I also have the pay what you think it's worth, which you're more than welcome to pay me for it, but you can also get it for free. But it has a training in there on viral questions, plus it has 80 viral question templates that you can just take and use on Facebook.
How does people get access to that?
I have a link. I'm happy to share it. Share it with you guys. Or you can reach out to me. Cierra is how you spell my first name, Cierra, and my last name is Lueck, just like earlier.
Do you get annoyed when people go, Cierra?
No, like the song, like Cierra.
Maybe I pronounced it wrong. I'm a redneck.
Hypnotic, funky.
That doesn't rub you the wrong way? Because I think I did that the first time I met you a couple years ago.
No, I love it. I love it. I wish that I had written the song. That would make it even better, but I didn't. Alas, I was not doing my music career at that point. Maybe someday. So you can just find me on Facebook is the best place to get in touch with me. Shoot me a message. Don't just click to add me as a friend. I get so many spammers adding me as a friend. It's ridiculous on Facebook. I have like 300 some odd friend requests that I have to filter through right now. It's crazy. And I'm starting to get to the point where I'm like, I don't even care anymore. My friends list is almost maxed out. I'm just not even.
I feel like LinkedIn is, at least for me, it's worse because I have my title on there as CEO, and it's like every recruiter or salesperson or any software program or HR department, they're just constantly spamming me on LinkedIn. I don't even look at it anymore. It's constant spam. I do get it on Facebook, but not nearly as much as I do on LinkedIn.
That's interesting.
Have
you been in the LinkedIn groups?
No. I try to stay away from LinkedIn. And I know there's, especially for what I do, it's probably a gold mine, Evan, we should work. We do LinkedIn too, don't we? Yeah, my bad. Okay, so anyway, appreciate LinkedIn. I don't engage on LinkedIn.
Well, I think that there comes a point in any CEO's journey, like once you actually get to the point of needing a CEO, because I know you're out there, business owners who call yourself CEO, and you have no need for a CEO in your business at this point. But for the people whose business grows to the point where you actually need CEO, COO, CMO, CFO, all those, when you get to that point, there comes a point where you are your time of one-to-one connecting, because the one-to-one never goes away. It's always there, but your one-to-one connections are with higher level people. It's not with the everyday people who are jumping into your programs. It just can't be.
Right.
Like once they're in your program, then yeah, connect. We're glad to meet you. We're glad to know you. We're glad to help you along the way. But on the front end, on the networking side, when you think about how many users there are, and if you're not utilizing Facebook, you should. There's 2.8 billion active users on Facebook every single month, and that number grows, and it's on the rise. There's 280 million Facebook groups, and that statistic is 2 years old, and they haven't produced another statistic since. So there's probably more Facebook groups than that. There's so much opportunity for visibility on Facebook, more so than any other platform. The closest two other platforms are Instagram and YouTube, and they have...
Because I know Taylor's really big into Twitter now.
Yeah, Twitter.
Different audience.
It is a different audience, but there's not the same amount of users because Elon Musk is having to completely revamp the way that they were doing it. On Facebook, you don't have nearly as many bots that are spamming the platform. And to be quite honest, the algorithm is running most everything on the platform. There's not actually people that you can talk to. People aren't actually throwing you in Facebook jail. It is the algorithm. They don't have the manpower to control the amount of volume that they're bringing on that platform. They just don't. No platform does. And so if you think about they're struggling to control the volume, once you start doing volume in your business, there are very few platforms, SaaS or otherwise, SaaS, social media, whatever, that can actually support really high volume. So for anyone out there who's doing higher volume in your business, just know, like, give the platform a break. It's not the platform's problem that you keep having those issues. It's just that you're just too popular, and that's okay.
Have you heard of Sean Whalen's new product that he's coming out with? Okay.
Sure, if you want.
Yeah,
if you want.
I can't remember the name.
No need to
Matt,
plug it if you don't want
If Matt was here today and not being a slacker working from home, he could tell us, because we're actually working with them to eventually convert our groups over to what he's got. And there's a lot of automation to it as well, but...
Paid groups, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say your free groups, no. Paid groups, yes. Free groups, no. Free groups because you want the... This is what I was going to say about Facebook. Facebook does a lot of the hard work for you on the front end for the marketing and visibility. The algorithm does a lot of the work for you. The AI algorithm that's in place will promote you for you. And if you have a community that's open and Facebook is bringing in a lot of people, those people in the community will help warm up the other people for you so that you don't have to.
Right.
So the moment, like, what's his name? He was Taylor Welch's mentor. Oh my gosh, he's escaping my brain. He built out his own platform for groups. And on his platform, his group obviously has a lot of engagement because it has all of his people that are following him.
Yeah.
You're always gonna have that with the head. But then you've got all these other people who are jumping in and creating their groups there. Well, his platform doesn't have the AI algorithm like Facebook has been developing for the last more than a decade. They don't have that. So they're not training people to stay on the platform. They're not bringing people back to the platform for you. They don't have all those mechanisms in place like Facebook does. And no other platform does it better than Facebook. TikTok is starting to have a rise, but I mean, obviously in America, we have our own concerns about what's going on with TikTok.
Right.
TikTok is starting to have a rise, but like you talk about left-leaning platforms, sheesh.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like TikTok's just kind of like, it's like the wild, wild west.
Yeah, we're on TikTok, but I'll be honest with you, I only go on TikTok to see if there's any direct messages to me. But other than that, I'm nervous that I even have it on my phone, but I do.
Yeah, same. My kids are on it. What are you gonna do?
And it's entirely different content in the United States than what I hear is in China. In China, it's more educational based. Yeah, it's very controlled of what China allows TikTok users that are Chinese to actually consume. However, here, it's almost like this long-term play to dumb the American citizens down as much as possible and educate theirs because they're a dying society. They're actually slowly but surely going extinct because of the one-child rule back in the day.
I was gonna say, well, when you could only have one child.
Yeah. Well, here, I'll use this opportunity to extort you for some free information. So we have a Facebook group, Replace University. It's absolutely free because one of the challenges that we have is some of the things that we talk about is so left field that it's like, no way, that cannot be true. We'll just talk about replace your mortgage. and not having a mortgage and replacing it with lines of credit, whether it be a business line of credit, a commercial line of credit, or a home equity line of credit. And people are like, no way, that's a scam. So we have a Facebook group that we first corral people into and pepper them with tons of free information just to overcome that this is actually legit. It's just a math equation that anybody can win at. Not everybody, but a lot of people can win at, and you should know about it. And so that's completely free. And we kind of use that to pepper the information and try to get them further down the funnel. Is that a good use of a Facebook group or no?
Yes, and.
Okay.
What you're wanting to do, the goal.
Because it was his idea.
Good job, Evan.
Yeah.
The goal that you're wanting to produce of educating people and kind of gathering all the information into one place, it's a good goal. Facebook groups can do that, but the amount of engagement, like you're actually, as long as you are not controlling the narrative of what people are hearing, and I'm not meaning that in like a mind control way where we're trying to hurt people.
Her hands are open like this too, by the way, y'all.
He's literally
and she's smiling.
trying.
I'm catching on, I'm learning.
He's literally trying to help you guys take the shortest path to get to the best information possible. Like nowadays, people don't pay for information. People don't actually want a DIY course. They don't want this other stuff. They actually want to be guided they want to know what their gaps are. They want to know the shortest possible way that they can get there. And they want somebody to actually remove the fluff. Like we are in an information age where there's just so much being bombarded on us at all times that people are feeling burnout and they're feeling overwhelmed, and it's not because they're actually doing too much in their business. They think that they're doing too much. It's because they've got so much information, they're constantly context switching between ideas, and then suddenly another idea pops up and they're like, I have shiny object syndrome, or I have imposter syndrome. You don't have any of that. You just have TMI, too much information. And you need somebody to come in. If you have a goal, go find the expert, like I did with my midwife, and I mentioned she had served 3,000 women. Yeah. Go find the expert, pay them to shorten the gap for you. And a lot of people will want to jump to like the highest level expert possible. Don't do that either. Go to somebody who's a few steps ahead of you, pay them, get to that step, then go to the next person and take your steps forward, and that will shorten the gap so much faster. So with Facebook groups, going back to that with the guides and the way that you're building stuff out, the best way to do that is to actually produce like a free course that walks them through step by step with very short compressed videos, not 30 minutes, not an hour long. Yes, you can do that. Yes, that is amazing. People's attention spans are so much shorter because they're going to get interrupted. They're going to have other things pop up.
Yep.
And we're just in this microwave generation where we're expecting to get that result faster. So you need to give them a quick win immediately. And the way that that's best delivered is through some kind of a free course or training or some kind of action that they can take immediately and feel really good about. And we can do that with a Facebook group. That can be in there and part of it, but that's not going to generate a community.
Right.
You giving information that's really good that helps them get a win is not going to generate a community. What's going to generate a community is when Joe Blow enters in and he's like, oh my God, guys, I am having this, and this happen in my business. What do I do? And then the community corrals around and crowdsources information together and they help him out, and then he gets out of it. He never wants to leave the community because the community helped him and he feels supported. They don't want to leave because they feel like they're actually able to contribute. When I'm building groups, I base it on Tony Robbins' 6 basic human needs. And so we build in, how do we give them that loving connection? How do we give them that sense of contribution, like they're a part of something that's bigger than themselves? How do we give them that certainty where they know for sure that every single time in here, they're going to get that, maybe the dopamine hit, maybe the serotonin, maybe some of these other connection sources that they've been looking for. Maybe the information they've been looking for, like whatever it is that your target audience actually needs. And then how do we give them that uncertainty, which is the variety and the hype, and most people don't give people uncertainty inside of Facebook groups. The uncertainty is what makes life fun.
Right.
My husband used to tell me all the time, variety is the spice of life. And I was like, yeah, I get it, babe. I'll go change my clothes, whatever. It is that though. Like people want variety. If it's the same, pardon my language. Is it okay?
Yeah.
I can curse?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. If it's the same damn thing every single week, every single month, every single year, that gets tired. Like people need like events. People need to be a part of something. I recently had a client who came to me, and the previous person she'd worked with told her to stop doing events. And I was like, no, start doing events. Like, people love having something to look forward to. They want to connect with other people. And when you do an event, you give them that opportunity to have more of what they want. Like, yes, they want the result, and I want the result, and I want to connect with other people who are getting the result too. I want the result, and I want my environment to feel amazing when I walk in. You know, I want the result, and I want to feel loved and supported. I want the result, and I want to feel like I'm a leader. Like, there's all these other little pieces that are nuances of just basic human psychology that people want, and most communities will not deliver.
Do you feel like, because we have both of those, we do in-person events, which you're 100% right to affirm what you're talking about. The in-person events, you know, we did one last year in Utah, and now we've got our clients saying, we want to do another one. And we do virtual events too, whether it's on Zoom or whatnot, but they're still calling for that in-person, personal, or one-on-one event. And it's not just because of the content that we share with them, it's because of the networking and relationships that they foster at that event. That, you know, we did a real estate one in Snowbird, Utah, and they're doing all kinds of deals outside of us with each other, which is amazing, that we don't really see like on a Zoom call 5-day challenge type thing. 5-day challenges are great to corral tons of people into one event.
This is what you just brought up is one of the main points of why a lot of so I kind of came up in my consulting business in the agency bro world, and why a lot of the agency bro people, they don't like what you just talked about. They don't like that because it's not trackable. It's not data that's trackable. So because they can't track it, they can't prove it, they can't have it continue. But it is one of those pieces. Like, you can find the little nuance of, like, did you connect with somebody else?
Yeah.
Have you made friends? Are they commenting on each other's posts? Those are things that are trackable. Those are things that you can look at. And the thing is that when they are creating those connections, one of the things that most people forget about is that they're always going to remember that you were the person who created the environment where they connected and facilitated that. They're always going to remember where they met.
Yeah, I don't have the scarcity mindset. If they're doing deals in the back channels and back doors, I don't care. I'm happy to bring them together and have everyone win. I don't need to be a part of every single deal that's made. Don't want to be, quite frankly. We're after impact, not income. And if we go after impact first, then income will follow. And you were talking about finding the experts. Have you read Dan Sullivan's Who, Not How?
I have it on my shelf. I haven't read it yet.
Yes, it's amazing, and it's transformed our business. You know, when I was a solopreneur a little over 10 years ago when I was doing this, also to affirm, my first training was three 3-hour-long videos. Yes, and then I'd have clients be like, hey, what about this? I'm like, yeah, that's in the training. It's like, yeah, but that video is like 3 hours long, so where at in that video? So eventually we transitioned to no more than 5-minute videos. So if it's a topic, I only discuss that topic for 5 minutes, and then we have comments below where they can ask questions on that topic if it wasn't perfectly answered. So yes, to affirm that as well. Where was I going? ADHD. What was the original point? I do it all the time.
You were talking about your Facebook group.
Yeah.
And you were talking about connecting other people, and you were talking about impact over income.
Oh yeah. So the Dan Sullivan's Who, Not How. So that's what's transformed our business is I finally let go and started delegating. So I went from a solopreneur to now having 35 employees. And I want to only work in my zone of genius, which is, as a CEO, I want to be the relationship guy, the innovator, the idea guy. Some meetings I'm not even allowed to be on because they'll talk about something and try to be on an agenda, because we do level 10 meetings. I don't know if you're familiar with the EOS book as well. We do level 10 meetings. I'm technically not even supposed to be in those meetings because they'll talk about an idea and say, hey, we need to address this. I'm like, hey, what about this idea? And I start going on a rabbit hole and start drawing on the whiteboard, like we could do this and that. So what I've done is let go. And now we've built an organization where if a problem exists or a task needs to get done, we determine the who, we don't determine the how. And sometimes we do go after the big ticket people like Ryan Nadell, who's a consultant of ours, expensive individual, but totally worth it. But you're 100% right. Some people don't have the budget for that. So find somebody a couple levels ahead of you. And sometimes you can even get mentorship for free because they're also somewhat like-minded like we are, where we're after impact. And eventually I would rather have somebody owe me a favor than pay me a fee, because sometimes the favors are far more rewarding than the fee that I get. And I know that's a bit manipulative, but I do that all the time. We barter. Hey, you've got a skill set, whether it's editing videos. hey, how about I share some information with you, give you this information that's going to transform your financial life, but I also have this need over here. Would you like to barter with that? And I think that's a lost exercise today too, where we don't barter anymore.
It can be. It can be. I've done a lot of barters. I've done a lot of collaborations. I've partnered with people on things, and I've done all three. My favorite are collaborations over barters and over partnerships. And the reason why is because typically in a partnership or a barter, somebody loses unless things are very, very like paperwork driven and drawn out in there's like bylaws and stipulations and rules of engagement and whatever. Somebody always loses.
Yeah.
And there's also this like sense of feeling like you owe the other person, or the sense of feeling like a debt, like I'm not being a great client. And it's like the moment that money exchanges, there's a completely different energy around it. There's something about being paid that just makes you feel more valued than when you barter. When you barter, it's cool. But I can tell you that the barters that I've done with people, they haven't followed through on it. They haven't given as much weight to it. When somebody pays me and the money exchanges, all of a sudden they're like, well, I invested money, so I need to do something with this. But when we barter, they didn't invest any money, so they're like, it's okay, we can start on that next month and blah, blah, blah. And it's like.
I still have landscaping that hasn't been done based on a barter.
Yeah. And so it's just more on like collaborations. It's where it's an effort where we're working together, where we're building a rising tide to lift all boats. And that's different than a barter where we're exchanging services or products or something like that. Barters can be good if you exchange money. Because the moment you exchange money, like if you want to purchase somebody's services, purchase it outright. It's like, you think about for somebody who's newer in their business, and the moment you say, well, I'll give you my offer if you give me yours kind of situation, it makes them kind of feel devalued. Like, well, if you really value it, why won't you just pay for it?
Yeah.
Because they might not have the money to jump into your offer. And that might be why you think you're offering it to them, is because they don't have the money to jump in and it would be helpful for them. But it's going to do them a lot more on their mindset when you actually sow the seed of planting that money in them to build them up, and then they might jump into your thing. It's there was a really good advice given, and I don't remember who said it. They said to have enough money in your bank account to be able to purchase whatever it is that you want, get double the amount in your account. And then it gives you the peace of mind that at that point you can actually make a really clear decision over whether you really want it or not when you have double, or do you want to spend it on something else. When somebody doesn't have enough money, they feel this, it's almost like that issue that caused hoarding for so long from the Great Depression, where people just didn't have enough of things, so they would hold on to everything. So everything seems infinitely more valuable when you don't have enough. So food, it's like, oh, okay, well, they're gonna offer me food for free, I need to have that. Or they're gonna offer me clothes for free, I need to have that. They're gonna offer me services for free, I need to have that. And then now you've got all of this crap that you have to organize, that you have to deal with, that you have this weight on your shoulders, and it actually bogs the person down and holds them down and keeps them stuck and keeps them from actually taking traction forwards when they've got too many things. And so that's my viewpoint on barters. It's a whole psychological thing behind it. It's the mindset behind what happens.
I never compared that or related that to hoarding, but that totally makes sense. Yeah, you definitely have a psychology background. Our next guest is actually Hector Gonzalez, and he's coming in. My watch died. What time is it?
102.
102. Yeah, he's coming in at 1:15. You've got to meet him. He's an expert on monthly reoccurring revenue. He's a marketing guy too. Do you know who Hector is?
I feel like Hector, we're already friends on Facebook.
Probably are. I mean, the guy's everywhere. He shares really good information too. But he's coming in, so I want you guys to meet before you leave. I don't know how much time you have, but he'll be in probably in about 10 minutes. But you definitely need to meet him, because I think both of you have some synergy and could bring value to one another. Same thing. I think you'd be my wife's best friend. You guys think so much alike. You also kind of come across as somebody that would be a homesteader. Do you guys homestead or have land, or?
We did at one point.
Did you?
And I have a psychology perspective behind that too.
Yeah. Because I just bought one a year ago, so.
Before, I know. I remember we were talking, and I think there were chickens or something.
Oh, now it's somewhere. Cattle and goats.
Okay, goats. I knew there was something screaming in the background, and I couldn't remember. So
we
goats
have
makes more
Highland
sense.
Cattle now, and they're absolute sterile because they were twins. And if you know anything about Highland cattle, they're expensive. And I was like, okay.
I don't, but I have a
So
cattle rancher client from North Dakota who knows all about cattle.
Do you know which ones I'm talking about? They're the furry ones with the long horns or whatnot.
Okay,
right now they're calves, they're babies, but they're very woolly. They come from the Highlands of Scotland. So they're expensive, and they're.
I've got a book recommendation for you, an author. It's old books. They're out of print, but they're some of the best homesteading books out there. Gene Logsdon. Write it down, look him up. Gene Logsdon. I think it's Gene and then Logsdon. Logsdon.
I bet my wife does.
His stuff was amazing. We had so many books from him, and he has all different kinds of stuff on homesteading, and it is just very practical, applicable action steps on what to do with everything. And so we actually had 40 acres before my husband jumped into the military. And when we were out there doing that, it just, it felt very isolating. And I really like living near people and being around people. I even like just sitting out on my front porch and being able to watch people walk by and just smile at them. And that just that interaction of being closer to other people's energy. I like being around people, and I do believe in community aspect. I used to want to be one of those, like, what do they call them, the preppers or something like that. I used to want to be able to produce everything myself and have like everything that we needed. And so I was learning all about textiles, and I was learning about like biodynamic farming and stuff like that. And I shifted away from that because now I understand, like, my time is so valuable in learning how to do all of those skills, unless it's a hobby that I want to pursue, which it's not the hobby I desire to pursue right now. It's not worth it to spend my time on that. When somebody else has spent their whole life learning how to do that, they're passionate about it and they're excited about it, I'm happy to pay them. I'm happy to purchase things from other people or other countries or other places or whatever, and purchase from people's expertise. Like, it's like, that's part of community, and we're supposed to have that. It's like what the scripture that says, it's not good for man to be alone.
Right.
That's like, it's not. It's like, we're supposed to have community.
And we have a large family, so one of the reasons why we purchased it is I've obviously got 5 kids, but my wife is one of 7, and her sister has 8 kids, and another one has 4, and so it's a big extended family, and that's just on her side. My side, we have what we call Fall Fest or Harvest Fest during Halloween, where we bring the family together, have a big bonfire. And that's just on my side, probably 175, 200 people. So when I say homestead, we're definitely not alone. It's like, we bought it so that...
You have your other families and stuff out there too?
Not yet. That's kind of the grand scheme, because there's multiple homes on it as well. We're renovating an old farmhouse. Now we're building our new house further back on the property. But not all of our family is abundant with resources as we have been blessed with. So when there is a time of need, they have a place to come to. But it's also in an area an hour outside of town that everyone out there knows each other, and we watch each other's back. So there is a sense of community. But can I sit on my front porch and wave at somebody? I'd be sitting out there for a couple days. It'll be a while. But I enjoy it. My kids, we hunt a lot. We just walk out the back steps and into the woods and hunt.
I lived in Montana for a little bit when we first got married, and we had a river right off of our back porch, which was incredible.
Yes.
Clear, crystal clear water.
Yes.
Always cold because it was like the snow melting off the mountaintops. And then on the other side of that, there was a mountain that shot straight up 6,000 feet in elevation. And so we just go hiking every day. There were fresh berries. There were apple trees on the property. Like, it was nice. Like, that stuff it was beautiful and it was nice. We also had community in that area. It was a really small community. I feel like now homesteading would be different. So homesteading with money versus homesteading without a lot of money is probably very different. And then also being able to still, like, you guys travel into town. I mean, your offices aren't out on your homestead. So
No, we have a house up the street, but we spend half our time there and then half the time out the homestead. But she grew up that way, and to a certain extent I did too. Very much farm life. My father and grandfather were farmers. So I want to be out there full time, because I can do this anywhere, and it's an hour away. So on the days that we need to do this, I just drive an hour and knock out 6 hours of content and go back to my piece. That's my dream. It's always been my dream to retire as a farmer. I know that's weird. It's like, why in the world would somebody want to do that? I find peace in it.
Well, I have a great cattle community on Facebook that you can get connected with.
Back to the cattle. These Highlands that we bought are sterile. We can't breed them or nothing. So they're I call them yard ornaments. because there's nothing we could do. And there's 2 of those, and we've got some brown Swiss and actually some more brown Swiss coming this week. But those we can actually, they're dairy meat cows. And if times got tough, we could absolutely eat the Highlands that my kids have already named. So I don't know how that's possible.
Well,
but
I do feel like you should join the cattle community that my client has, because they're always selling cattle.
Any chances her name is Jill? Jill Winger, do you know her? She's a friend of mine. She's got a huge homesteading group, Facebook group.
So this one's not a homesteading group. This is just cattle ranchers who are doing, like, so you would learn a lot about like seed stock, and it's called bull stockers. Yeah. Because they literally sell bulls and breed bulls. And so if you are interested in the breeding side and being able to breed your stuff at all, that would be a great place to learn from other people. Pro tip
for those that are watching and thinking about, let's get a farm, because there's massive tax benefits to it. One thing I did is I put it in an LLC that wraps into a trust. Do not, to a bank, call your property a farm. Call it a homestead. To your insurance company, do not call it a farm. Call it a homestead. Banks will not lend on farms, or don't like to. There's very few. We found a couple that will, and that's how we originally financed the property a year ago. But now we're taking our house and parceling off 10 acres, so that's now more bank friendly. But if you produce any type of income and put it on Schedule F of your tax returns, good luck finding financing for that farm. Same thing with insurance. I was on the phone, ironically, you might have to bleep this one out too, State Farm. State Farm. Your name is State Farm. And I had a pipe leak at the original farmhouse that's on the property over Christmas when it got really cold. So I filed a claim because it ruined ceilings, walls, bathrooms, etc. And so I filed a claim, and I misspoke and said, this is out the farm, this happened. Hold up, you said farm. Is this like an income producing farm? It's like, no. Are you going to file a Schedule F on your tax returns for this to be a farm? It's like, I don't know, that's between me and my CPA. Why are you asking? It's like, well, we won't insure it if it's a working farm. I'm like, your name is State Farm. I mean, am I going to get the same response from Farm Bureau? I mean, who else can I offend today, right? Pro tip, if you have a farm, really call it a homestead, and do not, you have to outweigh what the tax benefits are. So for me, the tax benefits are not nearly as advantageous as what I can do by leveraging the equity, getting a HELOC on it, taking that and deploying that equity into other real estate investments. I'm now big into digital real estate as well, which I'm happy to tell you about. It's really cool. It's 100% passive. It is not my product. We do it through a third-party company. But I'd rather be able to leverage that, because what I can earn from that, 50, 100, 200% a year yield with the equity that I'm paying sub 5% on, is way larger than, you saved $20,000 in taxes because all of the equipment that you bought is now write-off. It's not worth it. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, writing off equipment or writing off like any like little expenses like that is never worth it.
Yep. All right, what time is it?
11:12 or 1:12.
11:12. Okay, cool. 1:12. I know. So Hector will be here soon, so we'll wrap it up. Any parting thoughts, any solicitations, or anything you want to make? We already did your Facebook group, how they reach out to you.
Yeah, so the Facebook group right now is called Group Leaders United. It says like money making groups for high ticket businesses. I made a mistake. It's really good to have like a really generic, vague kind of name for people to be able to easily find it, stuff that, like SEO friendly. And so in the beginning I was like money making groups, because I want people to know that they can make money from groups. Now people were like, it's a group all about making money. And so I started getting all these like people who weren't even trying to start a business and who weren't even trying to do stuff on Facebook that were joining. I was like, oh my God, Facebook, you were sending me the wrong people. And so I changed the name to Group Leaders United. So Group Leaders United, the goal inside of there is to help you guys collaborate for building out these money-making groups that are highly profitable. And we have like maybe 800 members right now. Like it's a pretty modest group, I think.
I did have another question, because you've invited me a couple times, but every time you've invited me and done it, I've been out of town. You're doing this where entrepreneurs come together and work, but they don't talk, you just work? And I don't understand.
Okay, so the goal is co-working, and it's just to like, you ever sit in your office all day? So in the beginning of being an entrepreneur, my office was in my bedroom. I just talked about this on a live recently. So my office was in my bedroom. So I'd wake up in the morning in my bedroom, and I'd get up and get dressed for the day in my bedroom. And then I'd go out, I'd grab breakfast and coffee, and then I'd go back into my bedroom, and I'd work all day. And then sometimes until like 7 p.m., and then I'd come out and I'd do dinner with my family for a very brief time. And then guess where I went back to? In my bedroom. And it was just like, I felt like I was dying inside.
We have such a similar path.
And so after doing that for so long, well, now I have an office in the house that we have out here. I have my own designated office. So I just literally sit in my office all by myself most of the day. And I come out periodically and I'm like, hey kids, what you doing? And they're always like involved doing something else. And so I don't get to hang out with people as much. And so it's an opportunity, the co-working that I'm doing. I was just like, you know what, pardon my language again, fuck it. I was like, I'm just gonna go out and do it. We're just gonna start, I'm gonna co-work, and if people show up, great. And if they don't, there's still other people here walking around, and I'm just around the energy of people getting up and moving and doing things. And because we feed off of each other's energy.
Yes.
And so we're doing co-working for about 2.5 hours, and then we go to lunch. And then after that, I'm actually planning in the future, I want to start doing this in different areas around the Nashville area. Right now, I'm just doing it at the factory in Franklin because it's awesome. And there's also great locations for recording and taking pictures and stuff like that.
We need to work on the parking.
Fun content. Yeah, they're working on it. They're working on it. It's being built. Not very many people have showed up yet. I've only had like 3 or 4 people actually show up to it so far. But once it catches on, I invited like 96 people to this last one, and I've had like 5 or 6 people be like, oh my gosh, I hope you keep doing these. I'll come in the future. But I invited 96 people. I didn't even realize I knew like 100 entrepreneurs in the Nashville area, just myself. And I know that there's more.
Yes.
And it's like, it would just be so much fun to do a little takeover of the Nashville area, just where we go around to different locations. We just take over it for a couple hours, then we all go to lunch somewhere, and we just get to hang out. And then afterwards, if anyone wants to continue with the day, connecting to do collaborative content or like walking around. We've recorded some really cool content in downtown Nash before, and also in downtown Franklin. So they're just great locations to record like fun moving scenes.
When's the next one?
So I'm starting to do them every Monday. I'm not doing it this next Monday just because it's my 5-year-old's birthday. But it'll kick back off the next Monday. Okay. So we're doing them on Monday. Starts at 9:30 a.m. Obviously Central Time because we're in Nashville. Right. Starts at 9:30 a.m. and then around noon we head off to lunch wherever we're at. We just go pick a lunch spot and all go to lunch together.
That's really cool. So as far as your story, working out of your bedroom, when I first started this business, I was working out of the house, but not just out of a house and not just out of a bedroom, because we had to take in some family member and a single mom. So they took my office and had to sleep there. So we had a spare bedroom that had, not even a walk-in closet. It's just one of those accordion door closets. But we still needed like a guest room in case somebody wanted to come and hang out and stay with us. So my wife bought a desk smaller than this and took all the clothes and stuff out of the office, stuck it in the closet, stuck it in the closet with my printer, my laptop, and all this, my sound equipment, and all this on the background, my affirmation notes on the wall and stuff. She's amazing. And if you shut the door, you didn't even know anything was in there, but you open the door. So for probably 2 years of this business, I worked out of a closet. No jokes about I finally came out of the closet, but yeah. I did that for 2 years, and you're right. I mean, it was
just for context for everyone to know, because I think that this part is like a really key part to your story. You worked out of your closet for 2 years.
Yeah.
How much money did you make while you were working out of your closet?
A lot.
Can you put it like a ballpark on it?
$1 million.
Yeah, $1 million working out of your closet. So for anyone out there who's listening, just fucking start.
Yeah, it was scary too. I remember telling my wife this because 17 years in the mortgage industry and I was good at it. It was a good living and provided for us, and we had nice house. I was into cars, and that was in the subprime days. I had the Escalades, Denali's, 4-wheelers, motorcycles, and then lost it all. And after that, I was just like, cars is not my thing. I'm a father now, I'm a husband. I just need to not worry about what I drive. But we had nice things, and I finally went to her and I was like, I'm going to abandon it and just literally push it off to the side. And this isn't a side hustle. I'm just going all in. And I made a promise to God. I said, God, I will glorify you. You cannot enter our course or even watch any of our material without me saying, what do I say, Evan?
Thank you, God bless.
Thank you, God bless. But I also share the gospel inside of our courses too. So no client can come into our course without hearing the gospel. Whether they want to hear it or not, they don't have to listen to it. They can hit pause, delete, whatever, I don't care. But I'm going to share it. And I made a promise to God, if you bless this business, I will always glorify you. And it was within 90 days, I was almost making double what I was doing in the mortgage business. And because, and I had a mentor, a marketing mentor, Jimmy Harding, back in 2014, that interviewed me for some magazine. I forget what it was, but it was, at the time I was building branches. I was the senior vice president for a federal bank, and I was building branches of originators and creating what we call in the industry monster producers. Shout out to Michael Burt. That was a saying, I think, before he came out with monster producers. So if it's trademarked, you got full credit. But anyways, I was doing that. So I was being interviewed, and for 45 minutes of that interview, he's like, man, I'll be honest with you, it was just like kind of monotonous and just kind of going through the motions. And I could just tell by your body language, like, you know, this is what I do, blah, blah, blah. But he asked me a question. He said, is there a dirty little secret in the mortgage industry that everybody should know about, but don't? And personally, I was doing what we do. But my clients, I was doling out financial crack, mortgages. But personally, I was almost halfway paid off my house utilizing a strategy that I learned from a hedge fund mentor. So I said, screw it, this is shooting myself in the foot. I'm a mortgage guy and I'm about to tell you that you shouldn't consume mortgages. But I just took a leap of faith and I did it. And it was only for 15 minutes. And he called me after the fact. He's like, your energy level skyrocketed because that was your zone of genius. That's what you were passionate about. That's what you actually do. And you do have a heart for helping people. I think you should build a business around it. Aww. And yeah, so we did. And he said, you need to come to Boca Raton, Florida, where I'm doing a mastermind. And it's really cool what Jimmy does, and still does to this day. He's not going to collect a fee unless you produce twice or 3 times that amount for the fee while we're at a workshop. So it was a workshop. He said, you come down here, we're going to build your business, I'm going to show you how to do Facebook ads, and before you leave, you will triple what you've paid me to do this. So it was a working workshop, right? Something you not only learn, but you're actually executing right then and there. I'm like,
are you selling this? Because like...
Yeah, we connect every now and then, but no, I don't even know what page to send you to hook up with Jimmy, to be honest with you. He's on Facebook. But no, I'm not selling it. But yeah, it was really cool that we executed, and I did while I was down there, because we didn't really, I was at a scary moment where it's like I left this behind, that entire income, closed out my pipeline, said, here, you can have these loans, these units, I'm done with it. And you know, it was expensive to go down there and put it on a credit card. My wife's like, are you serious? I was like, I just feel like I have to do it. And I called her when I was down there. I was like, you're not gonna believe this. I picked up 3 clients today doing what Jimmy's taught me and launched this business, and it is today from that start. Now, we've gotten other mentors and consultants along the way to continue to grow it. But yeah, take that leap of faith. I mean, I had a brother that did the same thing. He was in the IT world, and I remember his first year, he's like, did I make a mistake? Because he was at a leadership group for a pretty large company, and 4th man on the totem pole for that company, and was doing really well, and said, I'm gonna go out on my own to be an entrepreneur. I'm like, I got your back. You know, I haven't figured it out, but I did the same thing, but eventually came through the ashes. So for the first year, he's like freaking out. He's like, man, did I just ruin my family? And now he's in his 2nd and 3rd year, building patios on his house, big house, nice cars. And so you can do it. Anybody can do it. It's the difference between the 1% and the 90% is when you face those obstacles, you keep pushing through. And 99% of the people see that as, that's failure. So this was the wrong turn. I shouldn't have done this to begin with. And they go back to their safe haven. It's the 1% that push through it and say, no, this is my dream. I'm going to execute. And they do. Well, thanks again for watching this podcast. Thanks, Cierra, for being here. It was a pleasure. You're a wealth of knowledge. You're welcome here anytime. If you want to co-work here, obviously we've got lots of empty space that you could co-work here as well. And let's put on an event together. Thanks for watching. Take care. God bless.